Welcome to the Coastside Fire Protection District Board of Directors, regular board meeting, June 22nd, 2022. Roll call, please, Jean.
Yes, good evening. Director Cockrell?
Here.
Director McKimmey?
Here.
Director Sherrill?
Here.
Director Stockman?
Here.
President Burke?
Here.
Thank you.
Also present is Chief Cox and Chief Armstrong and our legal counsel, Jean Sabarini. Thank you. Pledge of allegiance, please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Open meeting to public comment. Or any members of the public who would like to speak at this time?
I do not see any online that have raised their hand.
With that, without any speakers, we'll close the public comment. And do I have a vote that on the consent calendar? Please note that Director McKinney is asked to be recused from voting on the consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar? So moved. It was moved, seconded, and seconded by Director Stockman. Any comments? Roll call, please, Jean.
Director Cockrell?
Yes.
Director Sherrill?
Yes.
Director Stockman?
Yes.
President Burke?
Yes.
Director McKimmey recused. The vote is 4-0-1 in favor. Thank you.
Moving on to item 6, continue business, review and discuss, approve the surplus of equipment. Chief Cox.
Thank you, President Burke. This is, if you'll remember, we've made some significant purchases over the last few years, including new auto extrication equipment, some new radios, and the new air packs and bottles. Some of these things, including the packs and bottles, are out of serviceable life. We've now gone to electronic battery-powered extrication equipment from.
Do I have a motion to approve the recommendations for the surplus of equipment that is in our packet? Do I have a recommendation? Motion.
I move that we accept.
Move.
So second it.
Second. Any further comment?
I have a question.
Sure.
The TFT task force tips,
Yep.
those don't go bad.
Those don't go bad, no. So what we've done is a part of the, if you remember from the 7-year plan that we came up with, the strategic, we didn't call it strategic, the operating plan that we worked on. One of the items in there was the standardization across County Fire and Coastside to work on the standardization of tools and equipment.
Okay,
And this is getting away from the nozzles that we're aligning everybody on the same nozzles across the division now. So these are the ones that are excess that we no longer need.
okay.
Yeah.
For me, it's a nozzle. You yank the valve back and water squirts.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. We will not be without enough nozzles.
I believe you.
Any more questions or comments? Roll call, please, Jean.
Cockrell?
Yes.
Director McKimmey?
Yes,
Director Sherrill? Director Stockman?
Yes.
President Burke?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Moving on to new business, resolution finding the meeting of the Board of Directors via teleconferencing via project against the ongoing imminent health and safety risk posed by COVID-19, determining that all such meetings will continue to be held in hybrid format to allow attendance in person or remote pursuant to California Code 94953E. Chief Cox.
I think this is straightforward by all those words. This is just continuing next month in this exact same format.
I think we've been through this a number of times. Do I have a motion to approve resolution number 2022-19?
so moved.
So moved. We have a second.
I'll second.
We have a second motion and a second. Director Cheryl, any comments?
I just acknowledge this is the first time we've been together for
No, good point.
a couple years or
Yeah.
a year and a half, so it feels good. And I like the possibility if things go to crap within our world, we have the ability to pull back and do it the way we're doing it. That's my only comment.
Good point.
So that I would agree with Steve. I like it being here, but I like having the option open. For example, our attorney is not here.
Yeah.
And it may not be in the future. Melissa is not here. and she may be in the future, so I think this is a no downside.
Yeah, no, our new future.
We have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 2022-19. Roll call, please, Jean.
Director Cockrell.
Yes.
Director McKimmy.
Yes.
Director Cheryl. I'm sorry, you must be muted.
Yes.
Thank you. Director Stockman.
Yes.
President Burke.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Moving on to item A, review and approve the Coastside Fire Protection District preliminary budget for the year 2022-23. Chief Cox.
Thank you. Do you want to ask for a public hearing?
Yes, thank you. We'll open the public hearing to see if there are members of the public would like to speak on our budget, which is a public document and is in our packet today. Any members of the public would like to speak on the budget? Hearing none, we'll close the public meeting and Chief Cox, please.
Thank you, President Burke. This is, and I'll try to run through this really quickly on the budget side for the preliminary budget for next fiscal year. What we anticipate is starting off with an operating fund carryover of $6.674 million. That's essentially the money that's left over this year that's going to go into the beginning operating expenses for next year. On top of that, we add in what we believe will be the conservative revenues, which is $13.22 million. And then we also include in there transfers out of LAIF that go towards capital equipment or things that have been identified as tools and equipment, essentially. So that gets us the total funding for next year of $20.546 million when you put all three of those things together. We take out of that our operating expenses, which we believe will be about $14 million, capital outlay of $3 million, and a transfer out to LAIF. And what that means is we anticipate putting another $1.4 million into the fund reserves by the end of next year, similar to how we've put almost $2.5 million this year into fund reserves. With that, that gets us to an overall operating balance of $2 million that we don't want to go below or don't anticipate going below the next fiscal year. Just a few things to note in this budget. Big ones are the fact that we anticipate allocating $2 million for the architecture and engineering phase of 44. So once we get the feasibility completed, as well as the tools and equipment that we are finishing purchasing for the apparatus. Apart from that, the only outlier that I will flag is the CAL FIRE contract may increase in cost due to bargaining that's still going on right now.
And also, Chief, there is some uncertainty, not for this year, but the following year for ERAF funding, which is a concern that we'll deal with during the year.
You mean the tax theft?
Yes. All right. I'm sorry, Chief, was that?
That's it. Yeah, I'm happy to talk about whatever specifics.
I just add that the Finance Committee, Director Cockrell and I and the chiefs had a meeting beforehand to go through some detail on the budget. And there are some minor changes that we're going to look at that the chief is going to investigate and will be reflected in the final budget that we will see in September. But with that, I mentioned at the Finance Committee that the district is in solid financial shape, and I repeat what I said then, and I compliment the Chief Cox, Chief Armstrong, and the staff for the management of our finances for the work they've done. They've really done a fine job, and my hat's off to them. With that, any comments or questions? Then I would like a motion to approve the preliminary budget for the fiscal year 2022-23.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further comments? Roll call, please.
Director Cockrell.
Yes.
Director McKimmy.
Yes.
Director Cheryl.
Yes.
Director Stockman.
Yes.
President Burke.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Moving on to new business to item B, adopt resolution 2022-20, establishing the appropriation limit applicable to the district during the fiscal year 2022-23. Chief Cox.
Yes, this is fairly straightforward. This is the amount that we get from the county that we need to identify and pass by resolution for our appropriations limit for the next fiscal year.
This is pretty straightforward. It's boilerplate that we need to go through each year, and in the packet is the amount and the resolution. First of all, let's do, is there a motion to approve resolution 2022-20?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further comment? Questions? May I have a roll call, please, Jean?
Director Cockrell,
Yes.
Director McKimmy,
Yes.
Director Cheryl,
Yes.
Director Stockman,
Yes.
President Burke.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Moving on to item C, new business, adopt resolution 2022-21. Resolution authorizing Cemetery County to place a benefit assessment in Half Moon Bay Fire Protection District assessment zone on the tax roll for fiscal year 22-23. Chief Fox.
So this is just the annual resolution to get the funds, the special taxes for the two districts that has been on the books for a long time.
This, I'm forgetting the name, it's a land tax, what's the
A benefit
Parcel
assessment.
tax.
parcel tax? Thanks. This is a parcel tax that's been, was approved by the voters of Half Moon Bay 25 years ago. And it is, but it has to be renewed each year. Yeah. But do I have a motion to approve resolution? I lost my place. Resolution 2022-21.
So moved.
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any further comments? Roll call, please, Jean.
Director Cockrell,
Yes.
Director McKimmy,
Yes.
Director Cheryl,
Yes.
Director Stockman,
Yes.
President Burke.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
And similarly, this is the second part of the parcel tax affecting the old Point Montero district, but the subject is to adopt resolution 222-22, resolution authorizing San Mateo County to place a special tax on the Point Montero, the old Point Montero Fire District Assessment Zone on the tax roll for the year 2022-23. Chief Cox.
Thank you. This is the same special benefit assessment tax. It's been on the books for some time for what was the Point Montero Fire Protection District.
It's identical to the Half Moon Bay, but again, it's required that we go through this each year to do this. Do I have a motion to approve resolution number 2022-22?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconding. Any further discussion? Roll call, please, Jean.
Director Cockrell,
Yes.
Director McKimmy,
Yes.
Director Cheryl,
Yes.
Director Stockman,
Yes.
President Burke.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Moving on to item E. Adopt a resolution number 222-23 determine special tax liability for the fiscal year 2022-22 for the following community facilities districts. Community facility district number 5, number 10, and number 16 through number 35. All of those are in my motion to approve those community facility districts. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second discussion.
Maybe just a brief, we've discussed this before, maybe just a brief either from yourself or Chief Cox to describe what this is in public so they understand that it's part of our normal tax process.
Maybe Jean, you could take a moment to explain community facility districts.
Yes, these are community facilities districts which are established by the property owners within that district. And pursuant to this, fire and emergency services are delivered to those properties. And each and every year, just like you did with parcel tax for Point Montero and Half Moon Bay, each of the property owners in these facilities districts are also taxed by the district for those services. And by adopting this motion to approve all of those facility district taxes, we'll move forward, and that will be transferred to the county for collection on the tax rolls this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. Any further questions or comments? Roll call, please, Jean.
Director Cockrell,
Yes.
Director McKinney,
Yes.
Director Sherrill,
Yes.
Director Stockman,
Yes.
President Burke.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Moving on to item CC, review, discussion, approve First Amendment to agreement for professional services with Four Leaf Inc. Chief Cox.
Thank you. So we use Four Leaf Consulting Services for their fire inspector and I believe 2 classification. And that is to do plan reviews, to do inspections that are beyond the capabilities of any staff members. We have a contract in place with them. This is an updated fee schedule. There would be an amendment to the contract for the services that we use them for.
Thank you, Chief. First of all, for any question, do we have a motion to approve resolution 2022-47?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, a second.
How
Question.
many of the second is that?
I have just a question. Is this currently just covering one individual?
Yeah,
One individual?
yeah, and it's on an hourly basis as needed.
Is it dramatically different from what's?
No, I think
It doesn't
it's,
seem to be.
no, I think it's maybe $5 or $10 more an hour.
Very valuable service to.
Yes.
Yeah,
And the number of plans that are coming through is
Yeah.
incredible. And it's not slowing down.
we have a motion, a second, any further discussion? Roll call, please, Jean.
Director Cockrell,
Yes.
Director McKinney,
Yes.
Director Sherrill,
Yes.
Director Stockman,
Yes.
President Burke.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Moving on to new business, item DE proclamation for Chief Cosgrave. And let me mention that a fixture in the Coastside Fire Protection District for many, many years is Chief Dave Cosgrove, who is retiring very soon. And before the board today is a proclamation honoring and recognizing his contribution to everything that he has done during that period of time. And for the public who hopefully would be listening to this, I'd like to take a moment and with my hoarse voice, try to get through some of this, so to recognize the outstanding contribution that Chief Cosgrave has made. So bear with me, please. Whereas in 1990, Dave Cosgrave was hired by Half Moon Bay Fire Protection District as a firefighter engineer and was promoted to fire captain in 1997. Whereas while working full-time as a Half Moon Bay fire captain, Dave Cosgrave became a licensed paramedic and attended a fire department paramedic training program. Whereas Dave Cosgrave was promoted to division chief of training with Half Moon Bay in 2006. And whereas when a Half Moon Bay Fire Protection District and Point Montero Fire merged and subsequently transferred to Cal Fire in 2008, Chief Cosgrave served as battalion chief and was promoted to division chief in January 2021. Whereas as a resident and paramedic first responder to the Coastside, Chief Cosgrave has exhibited passion for delivery of excellent emergency services by both Coastside crews and volunteers. And whereas Chief Cosgrave has always recognized the importance of self-preparation for the Coastside community due to his risk of isolation in large-scale emergency, such as an earthquake or fire. And whereas because of that passion, he served as program manager and lead instructor. Coastside CERT was established at the annual Great Coastside Shakeout in 2021, which takes place each October and gives each participating neighborhood an opportunity to help before outside help arrive by performing damage assessment and emergency response and communication in the event of a disaster. And whereas Chief Cosgrave also serves as a coordinating committee member of the Events Bureau and Earthquake County Alliance Bay Area as a chairperson on Community Emergency Action Plan, has assisted in planning for the county disaster preparedness day held at the San Mateo Event Center, and is a member of the planning committee for the California Emergency Service Association Annual Conference. And whereas Chief Cosgrave's wife married him 33 years ago, blessing him with daughters Shannon and Megan. Whereas Chief Cosgrave is looking forward to traveling with family and friends, snow skiing, scuba, snorkeling, and will remain on the coast and continue to be involved with emergency preparedness. And whereas Chief Cosgraves is held in the highest regard by his colleagues, the board of directors, former board members, staff, and the community, all of whom wish to extend sincerest appreciation for his outstanding performance of duty during his greatly valued 32-year tenure with the Coastside Fire Protection District. Now, therefore, I, Gary Burke, President of the Coastside Fire Protection District Board of Directors, on behalf of the Coastside Fire Protection District, do hereby honor Dave Cosgrave on his exemplary service and commitment to the Coastside Fire Protection District, and offer sincere appreciation for his 32 years of service within the district. End of proclamation. Dave Cosgrave has served the community in this district with distinction, as I've mentioned here, and we can all just really appreciate the work that he's done. We will miss it. I would like to have a motion approving this proclamation that I just read in honor of Chief Dave Cosgrave.
I'd like to amend that motion to show it approved by acclamation.
Yes.
Amend the motion. It is approved. The motion is to approve by acclamation. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
To make it legal, may we have a roll call, please, Gene?
Director Cockrell.
Yes.
Director McKimmey.
Yes.
Director Sherrill.
Yes.
Director Stockman.
Yes.
President Burke.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
I mentioned, yes. Okay, another opportunity to recognize Chief Cosgrave tomorrow at a ceremony here in the Bay. I believe it's going to be held at 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Hopefully we'll be able to attend as long as another members of the community.
And I'd like to make a comment and just to take this moment. You know, the language here of highest regards. I've served an entire career in the fire service like many others. And I just need to say about Dave is that in my experience, he's one of the most unique people that have served that I've met. And some of that is because of the nature that he comes from this community. You know, he began his career and served his total career within this community. But there's also a humility that goes with Dave that's recognizable to everyone. And it's, you know, often when one leaves the service or any service, there's a discussion about how he'll be missed. Some people are almost irreplaceable. And the characteristics of Dave or what he's given, I think that really stand out is that he is known throughout this entire county by elected officials, by county politicians, by the sheriff's office, because he touches everything.
Mhm.
And not only that, but within that, people recognize of what he gives of himself and the time he gives of himself, and without ego. And that's very unique in any profession. But in this one, it allows him to have a huge amount of respect of everybody he deals with because of that. And I just have to acknowledge that in this public format, and hopefully I'll have an opportunity tomorrow to say that to that group, but just very proud of him and proud that he's led this community, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Nicely
Steve.
said.
Very appropriate, very appropriate.
And in addition to his 32 years here in fire services, he has spent 23 years teaching CERT on the coast side. So that because of our vulnerability to isolation, as many residents here as possible can be prepared to take care of themselves, their families, and their neighbors. And he has done this nights and weekends on his own time for all of these years. And we are so grateful the provision has been made for him to continue to do so as our program manager and lead instructor. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bruce, any comments?
None,
Yeah, that sums it up quite nicely.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Can't say much more than that.
Very well.
I think he's probably will be known as Mr. Sir.
Very well, very well. It, you know, the other just quick comment to addition what you said, that he has behaved and performed exactly as you described through very tumultuous times. It's if everything is going smooth, it's a lot easier to perform your job and doing it, but he certainly has gone through some very abrupt changes in a lot of ways, and to his credit, he's handled it extremely well.
Amen.
Yes, okay. All right, moving on to item EE, undeveloped Coronado Condensation 41, Director Stockman.
Yes, thank you. As we know, I brought this subject up informally in our last meeting. The purpose of bringing it up again and having it on the agenda was to move this forward with the board's approval. I'm going to give a brief description of for the public. They can see my comments from last month's meeting. But to me, this is about improving that last piece of property on the corner of Coronado that belongs to the district. I think there was so much focus from the board to get that station built, build the best station, build it within budget. We achieved that. We should be very proud of that. But now as a community member of El Granada, every time I drive by that little piece of property bugs me that it just sits there and looking like that, because it has so much potential and it's such a key piece of property. So what I envision of that, and with the board's input, is just some kind of passive upgrade, right? So something low maintenance. But I don't expect the district to take the full burden of moving this project. I've expressed that I look at it as ability to form a partnership and some collaboration with the rest of the community somehow to help do this, because I think it benefits the entire community. That's why in the language asks for it's simply a letter to the Granada Community Service District to ask if they would like to enter in this partnership of investigating the possibilities. So all that tonight would be is to simply move that request to Granada Sanitary, see what their response is. I think this is a project, if we had to, we could do in simple ways by ourselves, but it's a good opportunity to share it. One reason being that whole area is going to be developed, that Burnham Strip, by Granada District. So I would like to see that anything that's done on that corner complements what's already existing and what's already in the works. You can see already that they're expanding, if you haven't recognized that, they're expanding the coastal trail. The east side coastal trail is going to come into that intersection. They're working on that right now. That's going to change. I don't think we're too far away from starting that whole Burnham Strip project. So I think the timing is good for that. Then also, of what I envision, and I'd like everybody's input on this board as we move forward, and anything that comes back from the community, is just again, a simple project, but it might include some kind of gateway signage. Gateway signage meaning just a community, you're entering El Granada. It really is a unique intersection. Maybe in the future, some kind of electronic or static signage that not only meets the district's needs, but might be an opportunity for the community to add something to that. Some kind of beach, bench, or seating area. I've had some informal conversations. One has been with the labor group, and I've asked them, it's traditional sometimes to have some kind of memorial area within a property. And I think this is an opportunity to recognize the loss of Captain Lutz. I asked the labor group if they would somehow want to participate in this and designing a memorial, building a bench, something along those lines. So there's the potential for that. Again, that goes into that. This isn't just the board making this decision and staff carrying it out, but something that everybody can be proud of when it's done. And I look at it as being, I asked for the landscape plan to be put into the agenda because I just wanted to see what the original landscaping plan looked like. So there's a simple ability to just continue that existing landscape onto that corner piece of the property. Fortunately, the local architect that did the landscape plans for 41 is also doing the plans for the burn strip. So it would be an easy incorporation. And then there's we talked about there's some potential for county sidewalks there. I think we could start a conversation with the county to see if they want to step in and put that in their planning phases to have some of that all done or at least planned together so we're not doing something and having it torn apart or changed. So with that, thank you for that. It looks like and I'm anxious to hear if you have any concerns in just bringing this forward. And before I end, I will say that I approach this, especially in the idea of partnerships and community input. There's been no shortage of me saying in these formats within our board that this is a complex community. And there's a lot of people that want to have input, and sometimes it's appropriate and sometimes it's not. And as a board, we can listen to it all, but we've had some negative experiences. I will give the example of the lighting of 41. I felt that I was involved in the entire process and that we did our due diligence. We worked closely with the county. We followed all procedures. And when the project was done, the community seemed dissatisfied with this district for the way we handled it. I don't think it was appropriate in the sense that we did right by this community. But by being transparent like we are, and by having a process that asks for input, there's a certain vulnerability to that. But I, as one individual board member, are willing to take that, have that vulnerability in order to have the best product at the end. I'll end with that. Thank you.
Very good. Let me respond, and then other board members can jump in. Just a little bit of a background. There was, in my mind, and I think a number of people, and perhaps Director Sarkman would agree, that when the subject came up on that land, and I was actually asked, what are you going to do with that little piece of land and so forth? In my mind, there was a little bit of confusion as to just what authority that we as a district had, what we could do with it and so forth. And if you remember, we asked our attorney and Kerry Burke to do research to figure out what it is would have to be done. It had to agree with the El Granada plan, and we had to have permits and various other kinds of things. And that certainly clarified everything in my mind, that it is our property. If anything is done on it, there's certain ropes we're going to have to jump through, hoops we're going to jump through, but it is our property. Having said that, my opinion is that anything that is done on that property is done by the district and exclusively by the district. To do that, the entire station 41, if you think about it for a moment, was paid for, including that, by all citizens on the coastside. It was not paid for by El Granada. It was paid by everybody on the coastside. And if you look at our mission in terms of coastside fire protection, just in terms of emergency services, fire protection, if you will, we're not a chamber of commerce. And I just think to enter into some kind of agreement with somebody else to get on our property is just an invitation to have a lot of confusion. This is my position on the thing. I think the site, and I'll come back to this in a moment, I think it would be wise to at least keep that site for us in this sense, that for any possible future use by the Coastside Fire Protection District. We already have a sign on it to say, what the fire danger is. I can visualize almost similar to what Director Salkman said, something that would, depending on the circumstances, evacuation information as to how you get out of that very difficult area. Maybe, being speculative, we need a drone antenna, or we need someplace to do it. But there's certainly, with the changes that are going on in the fire district, there's a very real possibility that something could be done. And to have a property we own and to have some other organization put a sign or something else on it that we don't own, as I say, is to me just a real problem. Not to mention the time of the staff and lawyers trying to figure out, who's going to do this and all. As we well know, everybody's going to have an opinion, and if you try to do anything with that, it's going to amount to a great deal of confusion and so forth. I would, and I've spoken to the chief previously, there is funding in our budget for the Coastside Fire Protection District to perhaps do some beautification or lack of whatever the correct term is of that piece of property. But it is ours. We designed it, we approve it, and go forward with it. It is the possible interaction with another government organization or group that I find would be unacceptable to me personally. Further comments?
Yeah, I think that anything that happens to this piece of land, which there's enough there that we, as you said, we should be thinking about something, should relate only to the Coastside Fire District, not to anything else. A good example would be the dog that's out in front here. That relates to the fire department. It doesn't relate to everything else, and it's on fire department property. There is a sign saying, "Welcome to Half Moon Bay." Once again, it's not on the fire department property, it's right across the street. And so I don't have a problem with that. But anything that we do should relate to the Coastside firefighters. Steve's recommendation about maybe something recognizing Dave Lutz, and maybe, if God forbid, in the future, maybe if something bad happens to somebody else, same thing. Maybe even consider a bell or something, but whatever it is should relate to the Coastside Fire District. And I think that any other organization has resources and land at their disposal to do as they wish for that other organization, whether it be a school or a community, whatever. But I think this is, in my view, I guess if you look at it from a very parochial standpoint, this is ours, and we should, whatever we do with it, it should relate to us and our mission.
So I can see landscape because it looks pretty right now.
At least cut the weeds.
Yeah, for me, a bench equals trash and a liability. So that's how I feel about a bench on our property.
Right.
The sign, I'd have to give it a lot of thought, but I'm kind of leaning the way Gary and JB are, that they're not us, we're not them, and they're gonna do what they want to do. They're doing that whole Barton strip, put up a sign there.
Cynthia, did you?
Just hearing this, I understand what you're saying. I
Right.
also understand your point of view here. What if we could go forward? Steve, would you want to work with the design firm to put together a proposal to bring back to the board for what you would think is appropriate, so that it remains internal? It is property that belongs to the fire district, and you have every right to hold on to that and make it be something, but you seem very committed to this, Steve, and so perhaps you'd be the leader for a project that proposed what might be there, and it would be just
Yeah.
entertaining to you.
Could I just add to what you said, is to ask Chief Cox to work with Director Stockman on some, maybe perhaps hiring a consultant or nursery person or whatever it takes to make it attractive, again, to be redundant, but within our control and our design to do it, and to beautify that particular area.
What happened? The landscape plans are all made out already.
Yeah, but, you know, for example, I assume that you would not want something where you don't have to water it, you know, and, you know, it's so steep that, you know, a sidewalk, I'm not gonna try to
Sure.
figure out all the things, but let some consultant do something that, you know, is sustainable and yet is available to us should we need that particular site again in the future to do.
I heard a mention of sidewalks. The county might want sidewalks there,
Where they're gonna have county property.
but
Yeah,
not on our property.
No,
Okay,
that's how I feel about the
I
county.
heard the county sidewalks, wait a minute. Okay, thank you.
Well, that is important to clarify. So I assume that like on all sidewalk improvements, you know, that the county would make that. Is any of that property that's along the roadway is not that where sidewalks would be belongs to the county? Is that correct? Or is it?
I would think so. I think
Yeah.
it's either 50 or 100 feet from the roadway,
Right.
the county rights. If there's a telephone pole on it, it's county or
Right.
state.
well, if I understood the point, at least from the research we had from Gene and Kerry, that land is ours, not the county's. Is that what your question was?
The questions about sidewalks.
Excuse me?
Have a question
It's
about?
sidewalks.
As of right now, there is no design for a sidewalk on it. But let me just mention, I think that is getting a little off the point.
Yeah, and truly.
But Steve, look, if you were nodding at a couple of things there, but if the suggestion is that we challenge and ask the chief to either individually or through a consultant, and with your input, to bring something together that is attractive and functional, that makes it look pretty good,
Right.
would that satisfy your?
Well, I think what that lacks, Gary, is that the possibility, and again, some of this is based on informal conversations I've had with Granada Sanitary, or Granada Community. And I think there's a possibility where they don't have an expectation of having something on district property. They were excited about that property being improved and saying, how could we help you do that? And I think, so the whole purpose of, and that they could not take action within that board to offer a suggestion of how they could help us, help the district taxpayers make those improvements without some kind of processing, asking if we wanted them to give their input. So all that's tonight's is to send a letter to them, asking them, where there's no commitment to whatever they come up with. And we can certainly at any point after that's done, but so the board, it sounds like we're making a decision. Do we want to keep complete control, or do we want to offer up input from the community on how we can develop this corner piece of property? There does not have to be any commitment for us for using that property for another community use. But I think it's an opportunity, again, to strengthen our relationship with the community and also keep control of the project. If this board is saying, let's keep it in-house, let's make those improvements ourselves, let's hire an architect to come up with a plan, and then we'll make the decisions. I support that completely. I was just looking for a way to build partnership and possibly reduce the cost of this district to be shared throughout the community. But if this board wants to vote for the direction of what you're expressing, I would support that.
If in fact, there's some kind of a plan through a consultant or however it comes back, that would be on this agenda, and everybody, board would have an opportunity to comment on it. object to it or agree to it. The chances of, I think the chances are overwhelming of whatever we come up with, somebody's gonna object to.
Right.
And that's pretty much a given.
Well, I think we had to reduce
Yeah,
the height of our fire tower by 5 feet, so.
too bad. I mean, you could put rock, anyway.
Yeah, we don't need to drop into that.
There will be, but the public obviously has an opportunity to comment on something we come up with before the board, and that we'll consider in good faith what they're going to do. I'm just, and I don't want to be, again, redundant, but I just don't think it's necessary to involve the chief and the staff or anybody in any kind of a joint process in order to figure out what it is at this point. Once we have something on the table, then there's plenty of time for people to give their input on it. But to start from scratch and say, I mean, there's got to be a million different ideas as to what to do with that land and how to do it. But that's my opinion. Let me also, okay. I think that what I'm sensing to the board is that we ask the chief and with you, Steve, and to decide to hire a consultant or whoever you want to do, but to bring back to this board some kind of a plan that would be voted on, and have the public give some input to it, and we'll decide what we're going to do with that piece of property. Okay? Do we wish to vote on that? Or is that?
I'm okay to vote on that. I would just ask an open question to Chief Cox. Do you feel the same hesitations or uncertainties about, I respect your opinion on this of the proper way to move forward as it affects your staff and your time, budget-wise separately, just the concept of what I've brought forward. Because that's probably what's most important for me. I don't want to come up with an idea that causes an undue time of staff to move forward and a conflict within this, not a conflict within this board, but that the board has to deal with by approaching a project like this that tries to involve a greater part of the community.
Thanks, and I think from my perspective, I think we are about to see a turnover in the division chief of operations. So we're going to go through a little bit of a low on capacity here for a bit, and then getting that new person back up to speed is going to take some time. I also get concerned that we have a lot on our plate right now when it comes to land and structures. We have the landscaping here at 40, we have the 44 rebuild project going on. We have additional gates we're looking at. I'm not opposed to it, but I think maybe getting some direction on priorities would be a really valuable to kind of set the expectation of when that might be attainable to get done.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was looking for. So thank you for being honest about it.
But look, with this, if we ask that it's at least plan be back to the board in the next, this year. What I said a little bit ago about you and Steve and getting together a plan, and that I simply add to that as a motion that plan comes back to this board before the end of 2022.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'd be comfortable doing that initial work with Chief Cox.
Sure.
And then I think it should, once we come to some determination of direction, they'll let it fall to land and structures to take control of it from that point.
What I just said, I made it into a motion. Do I have a second?
Second,
Any further discussion? Roll call, please, Jean.
Director Cockrell.
Yes.
Director McKinney.
yes,
Director Sherrill.
Yes.
Director Stockman. President Burke.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Let me, we're all done that. And I must, and I've said this privately to Director Stockman and also to the chair of the El Granada Community Service District. When the plans was being made to build 41, we went through an elaborate system of engaging everybody we could do and all. We were limited in terms of where we could build it in order to provide the response times and all that type of thing. We held every kind of a public meeting imaginable to try to engage the public on that thing. Director Cockrell and I met with a committee from the El Granada Sanitary District. I met with them individually. All the time we were asking was somebody to say, support us to build that building. And in all that time, over that period of time, we did not have one person come forward to support us. And I must admit, that kind of colors my thinking about getting into another committee meeting and trying to get everybody involved. You know, it took forever, all kinds of staff time and everything else, and it didn't accomplish a damn thing, which, and all we were trying to do was save lives and put out fires, that was my comments are editorial, and that's it. We're all done.
And
Okay.
I think Steve was here, and not only did they not help us, they tried to stop us. And they did everything they could to stop us.
Yeah.
They'll probably delay the project a year, which probably cost us millions of dollars.
So that's why I tried to put the input in of understanding that. And I hope that honestly, that as we move forward as a board in a district and work to improve the service level by replacing Station 44, that the community in the future has a different response to us. And that's built on a change in their behavior as well as ours to encourage that. So thank
Very
you.
good. Okay, thank you all. We have it done. Moving on to item F, review and approve financial statements, independent audit report for the year ending June 2021. Chief Cox.
Thank you. This is the annual audit for the 2021 fiscal year. This is obviously the independent audit that's complete. And if you've had a chance to read through it, there's no major red flags identified.
First of all, do I have a motion to adopt resolution 222-48?
So, second.
Second, discussion. I just say that in our packet and available to the public, of course, is the complete audit of the district for the past year. I just add to that, it is unqualified. There was no issues that had to be brought forth. And it also add that I'm aware that maybe longer, but it is at least the 15th year in a row that this district has had an unqualified audit. Questions?
Pretty extraordinary financial stewardship. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Nothing else? Roll call, please, Jeannie.
Director Cockrell,
Yes.
Director McKinney,
Yes.
Director Sherrill,
Yes.
Director Stockman,
Yes.
President Burke,
Yes.
motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Moving on to Board of Directors and Chief's report. The Finance Committee met earlier today. We reviewed our year-to-date status, found nothing unusual, and we also discussed the audit as well as the all the financial information. Unless there's any questions, there's nothing to add to that. In our packet is the report from PAS, which is the healthcare fund that we have for prior employees and the status of that. As you, it looks for, this is for the month of May. It looks very positive for the month of May. I anticipate June will not be so positive, but that is a financial issue. Anything you got, Jim?
No, that's
Moving on, volunteer committee, Director Clark.
okay. Get some notes here, we'd like to review them, just so I keep everything straight in my mind. The meeting was on the 2nd of this month. Finance, we discussed everything. One of the things I want to talk about just a little bit here is the volunteer liaisons, a little different because when they have a meeting, there's essentially two volunteer groups which meet together. One of them is the Coastside volunteers, that's an operational group. The volunteer firefighters, they get involved with fighting a fire. Then there's the Half Moon Bay Volunteer Firefighters Association, is a charitable organization under the law. It's a 501c3. They have fundraisers, for example, pancake breakfast, things that they'll be doing some stuff at the 4th of July. But they have these meetings together. And then you have a few volunteers who are part of the Coastside firefighters that are not actually firefighters. They wear the uniform, but they're Coastside volunteers that are not really, as I understand, Chief, they're not really certified doing it inside a burning building, where the other fellows are. You know, this could be for any number of reasons. I just want to make that clear. So one of the things that's coming up is they're going to have some, they're having an oral board, and they're looking for new volunteers. I think they anticipate anywhere from 3 to 5. They're looking at an academy later on this summer. And by the way, the volunteers, they have one of these academies. It's not just us. It's us, La Honda. There's a third organization. It's essentially 3 volunteer fire departments that have their academy together right here. And I'm not going to talk about the charitable or the root beer floats will be selling the 4th of July parade, stuff like this. They have a recruitment sign, which you may have seen in the front of the engine house here. They'll continue to have some others. They gave out some scholarships. One of the things that they will be doing is their training, which is pretty interesting stuff. Sounds very similar with the professional people, the auto extraction, wildland firefighting, that kind of off-road driving, beach driving, all these sorts of things. And they try to have some joint drills with Kings Mountain, La Honda, and Moldamar. So it's a pretty active group, both socially and operationally. I mentioned that they're expecting 3 to possibly 5 new volunteers. And they took us an entrance to the Little League game where the Coastside volunteers, or the Half Moon Bay volunteers, I'm sorry, sponsor a Little League team. So that was what we covered at the meeting. And of course, I gave a report on our board meeting. So now they know what we're doing, and they always have a few questions generally related to this station, new stations, or any equipment we have got coming, stuff like that. If there's any other questions I can answer, I'd be happy to. Oh, and the main meeting, by the way, Steve Stockman also was in attendance. That's it.
Any comments? Go ahead.
Are the new volunteers of the firefighting variety or the sponsoring variety?
Firefighting.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll be attending the academy.
Great.
All of the volunteers that are there all started out as firefighting. Right.
Even the ones that are no longer in the qualification.
That's correct.
Got
Correct.
it. Okay.
Steve, did you have any comment from?
No.
Okay. Land and Structures Committee. Director McKinney and Director Cockrell.
I'll just say that the crews at 44 are clearing the slope of Passion Vine, I think that stuff is, it runs rampant. They got a dumpster, I think they've cut down maybe a tree. They're cleaning the place up, it looks good.
Good.
And then I was gonna ask the chief, unless he wants to do it at a chief report about progress on the new plans, cameras, etc.
Yeah, so the latest, we've been going back and forth. After you saw the program here last month of the space requirements. I've had a couple correspondence with the architect looking at siting. And he's been moving the building and squeezing in whatever he does. And we'll be bringing back to the board at the next meeting, the options. What I can say is it's gonna be really tight to get a drive-through.
Okay,
Like really tight.
kind of figured as much,
Yeah.
but hey, look at every option.
Yeah, it's not out of the question. We're just gonna have to have some very skilled drivers going in and out.
I think,
Already.
you know, I feel comfortable too of that not being, I mean, it's always better to have a drive-through station. But considering the call volume of the station, you know, it does affect that decision.
Sure.
And to try to make something fit that doesn't fit, to have the ability to have a drive-through. I think as we move forward, you know, we gotta be very realistic about what you give up to get that. So,
Exactly.
Okay.
Thank you, chief.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay. Vegetation Management, Director Sparkman, Director Cheryl.
Yeah, I'll begin. That we had a meeting, or not a meeting with us, but we attended the RCD, the Continued Elder and Auto Resiliency Project on May 26th. There was about 19 people were in that meeting. From the district here was Director Cheryl and myself, Chief Cox, Chief Sampson, Chief Cosgrave. So a good representation and input from the district in this continuing process. The final report has come out. And I'm gonna pass that to Chief Cox to give his input and before the public meeting on it. But just for the board, that final report includes an analysis, design, deliverables, modeling, likely treatments, suggested projects. So I feel that both Cynthia and I and our involvement in this process was really to oversee the process and to provide concern and input to that process for this board and those that we represent. I think we did that well. How we move forward, I look at that whole process as a step in us moving forward in this changing world we have on how we address these wildland fire concerns. So, and first I'll ask Cynthia for her input before I pass to Chief Cox for his.
I would, there's so many ways to approach this study, but the thing that's going to matter at the end of the day is how effective are the recommendations that come out of it, and how supported by the various agencies who have to work together and would have worked together anyway, to accomplish the objective of wildfire safety in the El Granada community. So I'm going to say to Chief Cox, what do you think of the outcome? I know you worked very hard with this group to give them the best information that was available to help their modeling process and help them understand the unpredictable but critical element of structure fire.
Yeah.
And how then prioritizing going forward, will those priorities be set? Because some of them, they serve different aspects of the community. So I would defer to you.
Yeah, I think so. To kind of summarize the process that we went through with RCB is, the real scope of the project was how does the risk get reduced to the community itself from wildfire?
Yes.
And the main thing that was looked at is, based on weather, topography, fire history, what are the pathways into El Granada, right? What are the most likely pathways that fire is going to get into El Granada? And we went through a really good exercise and spent a lot of time with the consultants and the modelers looking at structure as an ignition source or as a burnable piece of vegetation. And the reality is there is no consensus in modeling in the science world about structures as an ignition source. So it is almost impossible to get a clear representation of, if a fire comes through, how is every single structure going to react to fire based on how it's built, or if there's wood against the house, if there's a car near it, if they did their veg management this year or didn't. And so I thought it was a really good reframing of, well, okay, then we can't control that model, but what really can be prioritized is in those pathways coming towards the homes. What are the priority projects? And I actually think it's a really good product that they're putting out there, saying, hey, here's the priority projects to reduce the intensity of a fire that may come towards El Granada. And I think more than anything, they've done it within the scope of what was kind of put out there. So yeah, I'm encouraged. I think, it's a good document for future grant funding when property owners want to do the work and they have a document that they can prove that the work is going to be valuable. I think that goes a long way to have a kind of shovel-ready project in the hopper.
Were there any aha moments for you when you went through this process with them? For me, it all comes down to the fact that we have so many different agencies responsible in that area, and making sure that what is already going on was not kind of
re-recommend it in any other way. You know, we have our vegetation action plan. OES is working on home hardening. We have a lot of work going on by different agencies. Quarry Park is doing some veg management work already. And I think this document kind of understands that and says, here's additional work that can be done beyond what's already going on to reduce the risk. So that for me was not an aha moment, but refreshing to see that it wasn't reaffirming something that's already taken place.
So to hear publicly all of these agencies, one of the things that stood out to me is the job that all these agencies have been doing and are in the process of doing. And I think this reinforced that message, this message of team play and cooperation. And the other thing that I've noticed just driving around El Granada is that so much is already happening. There's so many fewer trees. There is already clearances going on, people taking responsibility for their properties, hardening their homes, clearing, excess vegetation from their own properties. So the raised awareness has to be considered one of the best outcomes of this whole thing, in that people have taken individual responsibility to bring about the outcome that they hope to see from all of this work.
100%.
Cynthia, I have to say I've noticed the same thing. On a personal note, I've got a new power assist bicycle, and I've been riding that entire community. I've probably ridden every El Granada street.
There you
I've
go.
ridden up through Quarry Park daily. I've gone as far up into the watershed where I can go legally. And I've ridden it's very noticeable from property to property. And if that process continues, it makes that entire community a little bit safer. So that's a great observation. Thank you.
Quick questions or comments? You all finished? When will we see this study?
I believe that's I should know that off the top of my head. I believe it's by the end of the month is when it.
Tuesday, June 28th is the public meeting.
Perfect.
I don't know the details of its location or.
I think it's a Zoom
Is-
call.
Zoom, yeah.
It's online on Zoom on the 28th.
Oh,
Yeah. So just
So
next week.
there's no request for agencies like ours to approve.
No, we were a partner agency is how we was.
Okay.
But it will be interesting to see how the scenarios are selected, or the priorities are set forward, or just what they do first, second, and third, that sort of thing.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be ordinal, they can do concurrent.
I haven't gotten as deep into this stuff as you have and you have. But just as a casual observation, when I see those roads that go up to the hills, when I look up there, I see Oakland Hills. That's what I see. It's
A
kind
lot
of
of people
funny.
share that concern.
Yeah, that's what I see.
That's it.
Yes.
Thank you. Let's see, Special District Association, Sanitary County. Let me just tell you what's going on briefly, having to do with ERAP, the monies that the county reimburses special districts within Santa Clara, within San Mateo County. And there is a dispute, gets kind of entangled between the state and the county as to whether special districts like ours should be getting ERAP money, and that represents roughly in our budget 10% of the money. And there's it is for this year, for this following year, 23, it will not affect us. For years after that, 24 and so forth, there is a possibility certainly that we would not get any ERAP money. But it's I guess it's in limbo. It's being the California Special District Association is very active and very helpful in terms of trying to carry our message to do it. There to each or to most special districts in San Mateo County, it would be a real blow. So it's an ongoing item, and you'll hear more about it. Hopefully, some good things in the future. Thank you.
So to make the public clear on this, ERAP money is money that's taken from special districts. And they're so kind to give some of it back.
Well, the key point, Bruce, is that which is being debated is the fact that the legislation that set this all up does not include the word special districts. It says the money will be giving back to counties and cities and not special districts. So that's kind of the crux of what's going on. It's typical Sacramento stuff, but
Yes,
okay, that's enough of that. Anyway, no report on ALSJPA report. And with that, my page ends, but I suspect we have.
Oh, there's more.
Fire chief. Oh, okay, there you go. Yeah, all right. Emergency preparedness, okay.
I'm gonna give the report because I was in attendance and Cynthia had another obligation. So I'll keep this short, but it was an interesting one. Often in these community keep meetings, they'll have a guest speaker. And this last month on the 3rd of June, it was David Mann from Caltrans. So it really gave the opportunity to get a vision of what Caltrans does and how it affects the coast side. David Mann is a district division chief in charge of traffic operations for District 4, which is basically the entire Bay Area, North Bay, South Bay, East Bay. Great overview presentation as it relates to the coast. It went into explaining a smart corridor approach, which was really a real-time intelligent traffic management system. So kind of talking about how we're using technology to improve traffic safety. And then there's always, as Cynthia and I's role on that board, or in that community group, looking at how those things are going to affect the fire service and the fire district. So we always come back to that point. He did have some, for all of us who live on the coast side, work on the coast side. I thought they did a very thorough data accumulation over a 3-year period, that from Half Moon Bay to Pacifica, and broke down accidents, which I thought amazing that they had that, that they actually took all that data and found a use for it. 446 collisions on the coast side in that period of time. And then it broke it down to 33%. This affects all of us who have to drive up one every single day. 33% of those accidents were rear-end accidents. 29% of them involved speeding. 13% of them involved wet pavement. And then they went to a point that's very clear to first responders, is that the longer 20% were secondary accidents. Based on the longer that road's closed and cars are stopped, you have a 20% chance, or 20% of those accidents happened after the initial accidents. That goes into scene clearing, efficiency of response, positioning of your apparatus to clear. So all that comes back to the district. So I thought that was very important. Again, to the community, the importance of watching for your sirens, clearing to the right, especially in this community, to let those first responders get to the traffic accident scene so they can take care of business, and then you can get on with your daily life. The longer you don't help participate in the positive effects of that, the longer it affects all your neighbors. So that's my message to the community today. Then he went on to talk about a safe systems approach to eliminate fatal and serious traffic injuries. And that was back to advanced technologies, talking about more intelligence within the lighting system, of live sense of what's happening at each intersection, vehicles in the future being able to talk to each other and tell them what's ahead. So things should get better as time goes on, and we can't say that about everything in this world. And then talked about some proactive studies as it relates to the Capistrano and the Coronado intersections. Those are two of our stoplights. When I drive my granddaughter home from my home to the south of town, there's 10 stoplights, right? And we always try to see how many green lights we can get through. Last night, with some great driving by Grandpa, I got 8 out of 10 greens.
Of course, he's doing 110 goes through.
Yeah, I really made some people angry behind me by driving super slow so I could get my green light bonus. But
That was you?
that was me. Maybe you heard about me on Next Door that night.
Because
So,
you have such a cool car.
yeah, exactly. So the Capistrano Coronado intersections, those will be improved. They're looking at each of, I really do think Caltrans is trying to help solve this traffic issue on the coast side, and it has, it relates to first responders. So we won't go into the details of that, of what they're looking forward to, but we're moving in the right direction. The other big thing that stood out was that Caltrans is working on ID as the coastside Highway 1's been identified as a priority corridor for high-speed broadband. So that means the
Yes.
Caltrans is starting to use their right-of-way to build an infrastructure for broadband throughout the state. And Highway 1's been identified as a priority.
Is it for first responders or is it for the general population?
I believe general population, but obviously that benefits
Thank you.
first responders in our public safety community. That was the end of his presentation. Updates from the community real quickly. Half Moon Bay Aries, the ham radio group, along with South Coast ARC, are participating in a ham radio field day this weekend, June 25th and 26th. One's at Venice Beach and the other one is up on the South Coast Skyline Ridge area. And then an update from La Honda Fire, this Paul Long is retiring as fire chief there. I think they had a June 7th election. I don't know if they picked a new fire chief, but again, that doesn't necessarily, that's not a border to our district. But as JB expressed, it's all one community, especially as it relates to the fire service. All those volunteer companies are training, are recruiting. So we try to keep the board updated on what happens in those other communities. And that's all I have from that. And I think we go to Cynthia for CERT.
Yes, please.
CERT. CERT has been busy, as it tends to be. The transition of Chief Cosgrave is uppermost on everyone's mind. Being able to, we're so grateful to Coastside Fire Protection District for working out a way that he can continue through his affiliation with the, now I'm not sure what to call them, the volunteer firefighters is what I always call them, but now there's two of them and they're.
The Coastside volunteers.
That's what I meant to say, yeah. He can retain his program manager and lead instructor of coast instructor for Coastside CERT. He can maintain that title, which allows us to continue to our certification and registration with FEMA. This actually was extremely important to a number of different things that we're doing. It affects our grant work, it affects our fundraising, it affects a bunch of different things. So we're very grateful for that. It's also allowed us to reach out to our community in this transition. We always knew he was going to retire. We sort of had a plan, you know, but then the moment it happens, the succession plan has to be communicated immediately. And that's what we have been working hard on the last couple of weeks, is to be sure that everyone was like, we are going to continue to exist. We are going forward. We're not losing any of this momentum. This is part of his legacy. Nobody wants this thing to shut down. So a lot of it has been about forward-looking work. We have a advanced CERT training coming up on July 9th, which is field first aid. It will happen here. There's a lot of hands-on experience there. We have 32 communities, 23 of them are pretty well organized, and we have delivered $84,000 worth of equipment to them to support their neighborhood activities. We have another 9 neighborhoods to go. We are working closely with Coastside Hope, with the city and with the city council to make entrance into those communities and train CERTs so that we can deliver their equipment. We have a lot of equipment for them, but the state's requirement on this grant is that you have to train individuals in a neighborhood in order to deliver the equipment to them. You can't just distribute equipment and have them put it someplace. They won't know how to use the tourniquets. They won't understand what a neighborhood command post is. They won't understand these things, and otherwise we're just stuff mark, right? We're just passing out emergency supplies and equipment. we train first and then we provide the supplies, and that's how we support our neighborhood. So we do work in every neighborhood at different levels. For example, we so appreciate when a neighborhood has a gathering, as Sea Haven will have on July 4th. They've asked if we're between calls that an engine come and just visit. And the effect on a neighborhood is remarkable. People come out of their homes and all of a sudden it's official and they're very, it's just a great public relations outreach, as well as a meaningful contact with the communities. So we appreciate all that. The Listos grant is over today. Thank you. It's been a year-long process of training Spanish-speaking individuals in first stage emergency response for themselves and their families. It has not been easy, but we do hard things. So that's, we are pleased that we're able to fulfill every aspect of that City of Half Moon Bay a la San Luis grant. Great stuff. And yet today, at the very last class, they were like, so when are you gonna teach this again? We're like, okay. We have all the stuff, we have all the materials, we have the instructor. You do the recruiting, you line up the place, you find 7 or more people, and we will show up. So we hope to keep doing this
Sure.
on our own, just keeping it going, and as we go along. Of course, we're honoring Old Fire Station 41. We have been clearing our equipment out of there. If any of you visited recently, we are making great progress. So we didn't get out by June 1, but we are very close. And if a whistle blew and you said to us this afternoon, we could do it. So that's how close. It wouldn't be pretty, but we could get it done. We're inventorying and doing all of that first, which we should, because it's all brand new. We are grateful to have 25 spaces to send certs to tomorrow to honor Chief Cosgrave. We had many more requests. So in order to keep there from being mutiny on this particular bounty, we're going to have an everyone can come appreciation event for the chief on the Sunday, the 24th of July, to which you of course all invited. It's a family event. It's all voluntary. We just had to find a way to let all the other people who wanted to thank him and be there to celebrate him to come and be a part of that. So it's going to be at the Long Branch, and there will be a $20 charge per person because our Coastside gives funding as well as Benevity and the other places that we receive donations from have restrictions about food. And we're community funded and nobody funded us so that we would feed ourselves. So that's the purpose, is to cover the costs of that event. So that's coming up. And then July 30th, we have the big San Mateo County fair, the Emergency Preparedness Fair. And we're launching a team and they're going to be part of the demonstration. And Susie Castoria with Carol Groom's office this is her thing, and it happens for the entire county. And Chief Cosgrave has been drafted as one of the organizers for the whole thing. So, you know, we'll make a good showing there on July 30th, and then August 1st, we may all go to sleep. That is the conclusion.
Thank you. Thank you, Cheryl. Moving on, attorney's report.
Nothing, thank you.
No, she said no.
She said nothing. That-
Is Chief
it's the best report.
Silver?
Yeah.
He is, Chief Silva is on.
Fire Marshal's report, Chief Silver.
Hi, everybody. Sorry I couldn't be there. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So for the month of May, since we're always basically a month behind on these, we did 86 plan reviews, new construction inspections, 13 special permits. We approved 2 on the coast. Business inspections, 4 were done by my office, and the mandatory business inspections, 5 are done this month so far. We're currently starting to ramp up on the business inspections, so those numbers will start to go up as we get closer through summer, because they're all, you know, due by the end of the year. So we start ramping them up as we go along. Major projects, you guys are probably aware of it, but the Big Wave project just started breaking ground off of airport. That's the 25,000 square foot project going on there. And then planning and building, we have had some pre-plans for 6 commercial office and apartment combos. 3 of those are in the stage getting ready to go to planning to start. One of them's off Prisma and Neil. It's office on the ground floor, 6 living units above. I think it's a 700 block of Main, same type of thing, office and 3 apartments above. And then Kelly and Neil, same type of thing, office and living above. I think that one was 6 units above. Near the caboose on Highway 1 there at Kelly, you know, everybody, their little caboose restaurant thing. 15-unit subdivision was approved to go right north of that. So just right behind that by the sheriff's substation. So that'll be coming in the near future. The Hyatt across the street from the fire station there, that one just went to building. So the permits and everything should probably be final. So we might see that one breaking ground here in the near future, which will definitely create a lot more work for us. So, you know, each of those projects is probably 3 to 5 inspections created from those. I told you guys about the 200 units right there below the high school. That one's still in a pre-planning type phase. I'm not sure how that one could go through. We discussed it last meeting with the traffic and everything there with the high school and that. I don't even see how that could be possible, but the city's interested in it and it's something they want to do. The weed abatement stuff, the last I had seen was Tyler, everything was done. The invoices were into Chris. And so we should be seeing all the invoices of that. And as in you guys talked about the wildfire stuff, I know that Tyler and Austin were starting to look at more lots and projects to see about more chipping and clearing this year to possibly present more of those to the board and see if we need to move along with clearing like we did last year with some of the more extensive lots that aren't able to be mowed. Kind of the same thing we did last year. So we're kind of looking at that to possibly present another pack to the board for that in the near future. And that's all we have for now. You guys have any questions or anything?
Quite a low, chief.
Yeah. Yeah, it just continues to grow. I think we're probably going to break a record on plan reviews, inspections on these projects and all that stuff this year. It just, to me, I'm really shocked that with a COVID couple of years like this, that nothing slowed down. Like I truly thought we would tank, and to see that everything ramped up during COVID times was really amazing to me. I didn't expect it. I didn't expect it to get a heavier workload, you know, during these last 2.5, 3 years, and we did. So, you know, one of the things the county did is they did our plan reviews aren't paper plans anymore. You know, right when COVID hit, they shoved the blue beam sessions at us, and we had to learn real quick how to do plan reviews over the computer. So I think that helped to not slow down because the contractors didn't have to go to the building department. They just submitted their plans virtually, and they submitted them to us through email, and all of a sudden it just kept things moving. So it's been great. It's busy. It's probably the only thing that's kind of a moneymaker for the district. So I mean, as long as it keeps coming and we keep receiving revenue for it, it's a good thing.
Thank you, chief. Any questions? None. Thank you.
No,
Thank you.
thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Moving on, fire chief's report. Chief Cox?
Yeah, just not too much tonight. COVID, we still continue with testing. Our testing model for employees has now gone from the testing sites that we had where employees would have to report to get tested. Now the department provides testing kits, and they do those tests weekly. So it's transitioning to a little bit of a self-monitoring system. We have not had any significant incidents within the district. However, we did have obviously a fairly significant fire for San Mateo County yesterday on the 280 corridor there, kind of between Woodside and Redwood City. It was actually San Mateo County Fire, Redwood City, and Woodside's jurisdiction. The apparatus at Station 44, well, to back up, it went to 6 official alarms, but then there was a 7th alarm for a secondary grass fire next to it, plus some onesie twosie apparatus. So we were up to almost 9 alarms on that incident. And for the county, you know, luckily we have a dispatch center that's centralized, so they can distribute resources throughout the county. And we never went less than 2 apparatus on the coast. That's obviously a priority. But it got a little thin a little bit yesterday across the town. Station 44's cameras have been installed. and they will be working on Station 40's next security camera system. The division chief, Chief Cosgrave's position, it closed today, I believe. So we'll have about 10 days before we get those applications and we can start the process for interview and selection. And the crews are also have begun their defensible space inspections of properties that are in the wildland urban interface area. Apart from that, we'll see everyone tomorrow at 2 o'clock.
Chief, I had one thing to add, since all of us are really concerned about Chief Cosgrave leaving and we're gonna miss him. I think we should just ask the unit chief to deny his retirement.
Horseback.
Gladly.
Good point. Is that it, Chief?
That's it.
I'd just like to say a note of appreciation for the excellent work that you did under a lot of pressure with representing multiple agencies. As the CZU PIO last night on television,
Yeah.
you represented this region brilliantly.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Good point. Chief Armstrong.
He's really good on camera. No, just thank you very much to this board for your support, and Chief Cosgrave, I really appreciate it. Director's talking, I think you said it well. I know there are some other points too, but he will be tough to replace. Pretty impressive man and great career here on the coast. So thank you all for the support and looking forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Anything else? Then the board will be adjourned without objection, and the board will go into closed session for conference with real property negotiators under Government Code Section 54956.8. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.